Hi, and welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast, co-hosted by Abby Fearing, the Badass Breastfeeder, and Dianne Cassidy, IBCLC.
Hey, welcome to the Badass Breastfeeding Podcast. This is Dianne, the lactation consultant.
And I'm Abby, the Badass Breastfeeder.
And we are here to talk to you about, obviously, breastfeeding, right? And actually, you know what, though? Like, we don't even just talk about breastfeeding. It's all sorts of stuff.
No, we don't.
It's a lot of baby stuff. And I tell people all the time, like, one of my degrees is maternal child health. So it's all baby stuff. So you don't even have to
and mama stuff.
Yeah, babies,
pretty
mama,
much anything.
Parenting.
Yeah.
I'll talk about
we
my
should
dogs,
do more parenting.
Whatever.
We should do more parenting stuff.
We should. So if you guys have ideas, shoot it our way.
Mm-hmm.
Email us. Let us know. But today, we already have a topic. So, sorry about your luck if you have something you wanted to talk about today, because we already have a topic. But we are going to talk about getting a good latch. Now, that might sound boring. because
I said it was boring.
Well, Abby said it was boring. But then I'm like, you know what? It kind of is boring because, well, it's boring for us because we're like, this is what I talk about all the time. And I just kind of feel like, okay.
I'm sorry.
You should all, like, it's like step one. It's like 101, breastfeeding 101, get a good latch.
Yeah. It's very technical. It's a very technical conversation.
Yes. But you know
it's not like juicy or something where we can get into controversy, which is what I like.
Right.
But
and we do
this
like
is
controversy.
Very helpful,
yeah.
So.
Yes. So one of the things that I've realized with latching is that a lot of people don't know how to do it. And
a lot of babies don't either.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Babies are not like babies are born to breastfeed, sure, but they don't come out like the greatest latchers. Like
no.
They need a lot of help.
They do need a lot of help. So the mamas don't really know how to latch. And honest to God, mamas, you really shouldn't, because if it's your first baby, like, who knows what like, it's your first go around, like.
Don't worry if you don't.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
But when you have, which happens often, medical personnel, your labor nurses or your mother-baby nurses, those are the ones helping you. And if they aren't sure how to help you latch, then we have a problem.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them don't, because they're not trained, as I always say all the time, like medical professionals are not trained in lactation. It's not a part of medical curriculum. It's not, they don't know. And so there's like this, I feel like there's this overwhelming kind of like, well, it's a baby. They know how to latch. Just put them on just do it, shove the nipple in their mouth. And
yeah,
it takes a little bit more work than that.
There is very, very often when a mom calls me with painful breastfeeding problems that I will actually specify to her, did somebody see the baby latch in the hospital? Because often they don't.
Yeah.
It might be just be the fact of, the lactation consultants in the hospital, they don't have a lot of time, and they might not be catching you at a time when the baby's actually feeding. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the nurses, maybe the nurse was the only one that helped you, but sometimes, like Abby said, they're not, or maybe they're only going by their own experience. They don't have really a lot of training in it. Maybe they've never even had their own kids. Some of the, nurses that are working mother-baby. We had a lot of nurses that were, young and right out of school and had never latched a baby on their own. Right. Yeah. Never been through it. So, and it's nothing against them, but they might not be teaching you the right way of how to really latch a baby.
Right. And so, it sounds like, well, just let them latch on. They're fine, the nipples in their mouth. But the thing is that if it's not the proper latch, that's the beginning of all kinds of problems. And not just pain, but I mean difficulty expressing milk, not gaining weight. Like all of these things can be traced back to a bad latch sometimes.
Right. And so positioning is huge when it comes to this. And I tell people that all the time. Like, it could be such a simple thing as just fixing the position, and it fixes the latch. With newborns, though, one of the things that I see that people forget about a lot is that newborns really need a lot of support. They do not. They need a lot of support. And quite honestly, the bigger the baby, the more support they need. They're floppy. Their head is heavy. They're, where are you going? And now you're going to lay them down and expect them to be able to hold their head up and support the weight of the boob and, move their little jaw, and they're tired, and they really need a lot of support. And if we're not giving them that support, that latch is going to be horrible. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be painful, and the baby's not going to get much milk, and it's just going to be like you said, a whole bunch of situations going wrong. So the baby needs to have really good support. They need their head and neck supported. They need their body supported. You need to support the boob. You need to hold on to the breast, which everybody says, well, can't I just let it go? Well, if you want a shallow latch, a lot of times that's what happens. Or they want to do that great, Madonna position, where the baby's in the crook of their arm, and it's everybody's sitting in the in the field with the daisies, and everything's beautiful, and the baby's nursing. If your baby's a newborn, they cannot support that at all. They really can't. It's just not going to be ideal, and it's going to be painful.
Yeah. So ideally, you want to be leaning back.
Leaning back, a lot of support for the baby, nose to nipple. And that sounds silly, but that's what I always tell.
Belly to belly, right?
Belly to belly, which again sounds silly, but sometimes those babies are wiggly, and they will turn themselves onto their back. So
and I think that's a reflex of women in this country too, because a lot of times when we see breastfeeding, we see it wrong. Mm-hmm. We see a baby laying on its back with a boob dangling in its mouth, and that's not, you know what I mean? Because it's that cradle hold.
Yeah.
Which is fine for a 2-year-old. Right. But a newborn baby needs to be facing you, completely facing you, and you need to be leaning back.
And the other thing too, on TV, all those babies are 4 months old.
Yeah, they're not really newborn.
No, they're not newborn.
They took a 6-month-old baby and dipped it in slime, and they're like, oh, look at the new baby.
We're like, oh, that's great.
How realistic our birth scene is.
Oh my God, I know. So whenever we watch birth movies or breastfeeding movies or whatever, when I'm teaching prenatals, I'm always like, that's a horrible position. Don't do that. People are always like, what? What are you talking about? It's like, no, it is. It's an awful positioning. No cradle hold for a newborn. It just does not work well. So nose to nipple, belly to belly. And if the nose is opposite the nipple, then the baby has to tip their head up and open wide. If their mouth is opposite the nipple, then they're just going to open their mouth that little bit and go on straight. And it's too shallow. And that's going to be painful too. And that's when I get those mamas going, the baby's not opening their mouth. The baby's not opening their mouth. Pull them back. They have to stretch their neck open. Plus, if they're mouth to nipple, their neck is kind of squished. And then it's not as easy to swallow either. It's their chin is tucked down.
Yeah.
So they can't swallow as well. They're not opening as wide. They're not swallowing as well. It's more of a painful latch.
So they're going to be in a position where they're almost kind of looking up at you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? From your belly. They're on your belly. They're belly to belly on you. Looking up, opening, reaching for your nipple.
Right. Yep.
With facing you.
Yes.
Your face.
The other thing that I always have to chuckle about is when moms are like, but all the areola isn't in the baby's mouth. I keep trying to shove more boob in there.
Oh my God, some women have areolas the size of dinner plates.
I know! That's not getting in the baby. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. Don't worry if your areola is not completely in the baby's mouth.
You just want more than the nipple.
Right.
Right? I mean, if it's just the tip of your nipple that's in their mouth, that's too shallow.
Right, and you're going to know because it's going to be painful.
Yeah.
But if it's not painful, then you're okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's the front. But if you're doing the football hold, did you ever do the football hold with the babies?
I never did that. I could never get comfortable doing that. But
I couldn't either. But you know why? It's probably nobody showed you to do it the right way. That's probably why.
Yes, that's probably true.
Yeah.
That's when the baby's body is kind of going back. Their legs are kind of towards your back.
Right. So the best way to do this, because a lot of times, especially mamas coming out of the hospital, I'll see them with the baby in football hold, but the baby's laying on their back So their head is like under the breast. So like the breast is like resting on their chest. Mm-hmm. And that is not comfortable for babies.
No, babies don't want to be on their backs.
No. And then they'll just go to sleep. Anyway.
The baby being on their back that triggers the startle reflex.
Yeah. And
doesn't it shaking of the arms?
Of the arms, yep.
They feel like they're falling.
They do. But they will be, they just, again, you need to stretch their neck out. Like they can't swallow as easily like that. It's just not comfortable. So they have to go up on their side. So they should be, again, like their belly should be up against your rib cage.
Yeah.
And they should be tucked right in close to you and pulled back nose to nipple, which means that the baby's feet are really like almost to the center of your back, depending on how long the baby is. Mm-hmm. And whenever I do that with a mom, they're like, oh, I didn't realize they had to go back that far. It's like,
yeah,
that's where we want them.
I feel like that's was always so awkward for me.
Yeah.
It's like, where's
my it with my kids either because, well, nobody ever showed me how to do anything. And my kids were long, so sometimes with long babies, it's harder to get comfortable in that position. Mm-hmm.
But it can be helpful if you've had a C-section because then your baby's not kicking on your incision.
Absolutely.
So it might be more comfortable for you. Or whatever, if you're kind of like, I had an episiotomy, if you're kind of, you can't sit straight down, you have to lean to the side, it might be a little more helpful.
Yeah, that's more helpful. For little babies, it works really well because then I think a lot of times moms feel a little bit more control even with that position. But it's good to have a couple that you know that you're comfortable with so that you can do more than one thing.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are in your house. So I find that hospital beds are awful to learn how to breastfeed. They're so uncomfortable.
Yeah, they're terrible.
They're terrible. But once you're home, a lot of times people will find like, a specific place where they go to breastfeed.
Yeah, find your chair. Get a ton of pillows.
Pillows
Get a ton of pillows so that you can we can relax your arms. And you're not like straining because you want to be relaxed too.
Right.
Which is going to help. Because if you're all tense trying to get your baby to latch on, then you're going to be tense anyway. Motherhood is like tension galore.
You don't need any additional tension.
No, right.
But take it day by day. So moms will be like, all right, it'll be like day 3 or day 4. And they'll be like, how am I supposed to do this out in public? How do I get comfortable? What do I do? But it's like, why don't we let the baby get comfortable with this? Let mom get comfortable with this. And then worry about...
Just worry about where your next meal is coming from right now.
Like, let's not worry about those things.
Who's going to bring you your food and your water?
Yeah. I mean, babies will get to the point where you can just stick them, in a little cradle hold and they'll be fine. Or you can wear them in a wrap and breastfeed them or whatever. You get to that point, but it doesn't happen in the first week.
No.
It just doesn't. And
it seems really hard. It seems really hard for everybody in that first week. And it's supposed to be hard because, not supposed to be hard, but it is hard for everyone because it's new. Mm-hmm. But it totally always gets easier. You just get used to it like anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And cut yourself some slack. It's really...
Yeah. So we want the baby to be opening wide. Does it help to kind of compress your breast in like a C hold?
I find that it does help with that. Yeah.
And you kind of roll your nipple into there. Kind of like
some people will rub the nipple like on the baby's lip to get them to open nice and wide.
And then you kind of kind of catch the side of your breast onto their bottom lip to kind of fish out the bottom lip.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you want those lips nice and wide open, like little fish lips.
Mm-hmm. And then sometimes when I was working on my latch with my babies, they would latch on, and I would literally just pull their lips out with my fingers.
Yeah.
so that they would look like fish lips. And then I think the breast would just go in a tiny bit more.
And that, a lot of times you do have to do that. And that's okay. I mean, it's not going to be perfect.
It's fine. And I could even, sometimes I would even just kind of like, I would do that and then I would just like push my nipple in there. Mm-hmm. And I think we all got used to that. They got used to the feel of having all of that in their mouth. And then, so it was easier for them to do it the next time and the next time and the next time.
That is...
Like, they will learn to do that without you having to shove it in every single time. They'll eventually learn that that's how it's supposed to feel.
And that's why it's really important that if it's a painful latch, to take them off and do it again. Mm-hmm. And there's often, you'll hear mamas say, oh, I just want the baby to eat, so I just, grit my teeth and deal with it. Bite on a leather strap. I don't know what people are doing. But,
then they're probably not getting a lot of milk. If they don't have a good latch, they're not eating a lot.
But we need them to learn the right way. So to take them off and redo it, like you said, like the more it's being done, then they just learn this is what it feels like. This is, this is how this works.
Yeah, and you can just stick your finger in and kind of turn it a little bit, and the latch will pop. So if you get a little air in there, you can pop it.
Right. So things that are normal, that I want people to realize are normal with this stuff, is that it can take a while to get a good latch. Sometimes people be like, I've been doing this, it takes me 15 minutes to get the baby latched to where it's a good latch. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, that's normal. That it might take several attempts before you feel good with the latch that you have. That's okay. It gets better. It gets easier. Getting them off, breaking the seal, like you said, you can kind of break the seal, pop them off.
You need to break the seal because if you just pull, they've got a really, really strong suction.
Right.
Newborn babies, I swear to God, have the strongest suction. Like these kids, like my 6-year-old, my 3-year-old, they're like the lazy. They're just like they can't do it anymore. They're so lazy, it's horrible. But like newborns, they could suck your brains out.
Right. And they will act like they could be sitting there like barely suckling at all, and then you could try to take them off, and they're going to act like they're the most hungry creature on the planet. Like it's just
because the pulling triggers the suckle reflex, so they're just going to start sucking again, and then you're going to be in a tug of war with your nipple, and you don't want that.
Right, you don't want that, and you have to take them off if it's not okay. Like they might not. The baby might get pissed, but they're fine.
Yeah, but they will latch again.
Yeah.
They'll get pissed and then they'll be happy once they're latched on effectively.
Yeah. So this is all normal stuff. So kind of expect this stuff to happen when you're learning how to latch. If you're not comfortable with the baby latched, say in the football position like we were just talking about, then put them in a different position. Put them somewhere else. Try them across the front. Sometimes I have to do 6 or 7 different holds or different positions with a baby before we find one that actually works to where everybody's comfortable. That's okay too. That's normal too.
Yeah. Yeah. And try the different ones. Some people are afraid of laying down because they think they're going to roll on their baby. But you're not going to roll on your baby.
No.
And lay down. Have your baby face you. I mean, it's going to take, that's another thing. They're all going to take a while to get used to.
And they take practice.
Yeah.
They really do.
They do, yeah. You might, my first time you lay down next to your baby, you might look down and they're under your breast.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, oops, sorry. And then you readjust. And once you readjust a few times and you do it a few times, then you realize, then you can just do it. It'll become natural. It
was funny, the mama that I saw today, like that was one of the things she wanted to do was try the side lying. And she goes, I've tried this. I'm not sure. The baby's, I don't know, like a week and a half old or something. She's like, I don't even know which boob to give him when I'm laying on my side. She's like, I don't know how this works. Mm-hmm. So, and it can really seem overwhelming, but and she's like, my boob's bigger than the baby's head. I don't, that whole thing. But, as long as the baby is belly to belly with you, they're turned in close to you, they're nose to nipple, they find their way and they will open. Yeah. Just it takes practice to get into it where you're really comfortable with things.
Yeah, and to answer the question of which nipple, it's going to depend. Because if you have very small breasts, it might be very uncomfortable for you to try to get the top breast into their mouth because you might have to turn and it might just be uncomfortable. If you have really big breasts, it might be kind of easier because they're both right there.
Right.
You know, like I can turn a little bit and get my top breast in there, but when I got super lazy, that's what I did. But in the beginning, I was like very determined to like lay on the other side. Plus sometimes you want to just switch sides.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Just to be comfortable.
And you can just, it's not, a lot of people do get afraid that they're going to fall asleep and they don't feel comfortable with that idea. This mom today, that was one of her things. She was like, I haven't really done it yet. I wanted to, but I was afraid I was going to fall asleep. But now I feel like I'm getting a little bit better sleep at night. So I don't feel as tired and I feel like I could do this just fine. Mm-hmm. But they were so comfortable.
And you also can fall asleep.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of moms are so afraid of it until it actually happens, and then they go, oh, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah, okay. Right. Then they realize that this is a normal mother-baby interaction, lying down and sleeping and breastfeeding.
Yeah. Yeah, very normal. Very, very normal. So the latch, we said it should always be comfortable. No painful latches. But you have to get that good latch. So make sure the position is right.
And just to finish we did a podcast about co-sleeping a few weeks back.
Yes,
so
we did.
To hear more about that, if you're like, oh my God, I can't believe she's saying it's okay to fall asleep, just refer back to that podcast, and we talk all about the safe co-sleeping and all this stuff in that one.
Yes, we do. Okay, and that was a good one because that's a big controversy.
Yes, I was like, yes. I always like talking about that stuff where there's so much misinformation.
Yeah, we do like controversy on our podcast. So
latches are not controversial, but it's probably one of the most important things that you're going to do.
It is. And then once you've got it, you've got it. But it does take a little time. It does take a little time. So be patient with yourself, be patient with the baby, and just know, okay, this is going to work out. Sometimes it takes a little time. It doesn't happen. We want everything to happen immediately. We want it to be perfect right away.
Yeah,
it can take time.
Yeah, and I think when you have a baby, you expect a lot of these things. You're so happy to have a baby, and you expect that you're going to be in the hospital and you're going to cry of joy, and maybe that didn't happen. Maybe you had an emergency, or maybe you were just like me. Like I just had so many drugs in me by the end. My first time. The first time, I had no emotions. I was just like, oh my God, thank God that's over.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, well, that's not what I expected to happen. And then there's every moment, there's all these things that you didn't expect. And so by the time you get home and you're still working on this latch, it's like, well, what the hell? Somebody really falsely advertised this whole motherhood thing to me. It's true. It's all false advertising because it's not smooth and it's not pretty in the beginning. And eventually you will put on your makeup and everything will be pretty. You can take those pretty photos that people have.
Yeah. But it can feel devastating, and
it really can.
When people say, oh, the breastfeeding is natural, he'll just get on there, it'll be fine, whatever. And it's when that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's very confusing. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, you feel like you're doing something wrong.
Right. But you're not.
No,
you're absolutely
it's just
not.
how it is. It's just the part that people don't talk about.
And we will definitely talk more about that stuff in a couple weeks. We're going to do the effects of birth interventions. That's one of my favorites.
Yes. I can tell you all about my birth interventions.
And how that impacts breastfeeding.
Yes.
Because it does really badly all the time.
Yes.
And I don't understand. I just said this to a family yesterday. I do not understand how people don't realize that the way the baby is born directly impacts how they breastfeed. I don't understand how people don't get that.
Yeah, I didn't get it until it happened to me.
It's big stuff.
Yeah, it really is, yeah. I mean, everything will be okay, but it does have an effect. It does.
Yeah, absolutely. But when they say, oh, no, it doesn't, it's not, I don't see how that would hurt anything.
Yeah. Yeah, stop saying that.
Right. It's a big deal. But we will definitely talk more about that in a couple weeks, too. And so that being said, if anybody is listening that has a birth intervention breastfeeding thing to talk about or to suggest or to mention, please shoot us an email because we'll talk about it on the show.
Yeah, tell us your story. We'll read the stories.
Yeah, we're going to be doing that in a couple weeks because that's a big topic that we could probably do several podcasts on.
Seriously.
Each intervention and then
right.
how they all affect breastfeeding. But until then, we want you to get a good latch and just not be in pain. But if you're having trouble, definitely contact us. We'll help you. We'll talk you through it. And sometimes you really just need somebody to look at it. Really. Like,
yes,
you can only explain so much over the phone. Call somebody, call a lactation consultant, have somebody look at it. And
if it seems like it's wrong, then it probably is. And somebody can really easily help you.
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, even when it's your best friend who breastfed, 8 kids, she might not remember because you do really block out that stuff that happens in the very beginning. She might not remember how much support this baby needs and, how important it is to support the breast and to do that C-hold and to, get the baby to open wide because her baby might be just automatically doing that at this point because he's 6 months old and she's, that's what she's relating to. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't feel right, definitely call somebody. The baby will breastfeed and will breastfeed okay. Sometimes you just need a little help getting there.
Yep.
Yeah. And other than that, I think we're latched out. Huh. At least at this point. So thank you for joining us and talking about latches. Anything you have to say or, leave a review for us, we would love it. We should do something about that soon. Maybe we'll do like some kind
we'll do a giveaway, a review giveaway.
Yeah, so we'll do something like that pretty soon.
I'm getting some awesome, I'm ordering right now, I'm ordering some cool stuff. I'm ordering some Badass Breastfeeder keychains and some water bottles.
Ooh.
And I have restocking my shirts for the year. So I'm going to have some awesome stuff that we can give away.
Oh, cool. All right. Good times. So everybody, I know you're all waiting for that too. Yeah, stay tuned for that too. And we will talk to you more in a couple weeks.
Bye.
Bye.